Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is your guy Keenan Lambert, and in this video I want to talk about something that is in part near and dear to my heart. There are a lot of other individuals within the travel passport space that are speaking ill about the city Toronto. And here I am in this city and I want to talk about it. I want to tell you guys a story about my past here, my history.
You're freaky. Not a booty bigger than Nikki. Tell me back, girl, if you want a bad man, come around this part of the city. Sticky.
Given my history in this city as a younger man, I can tell you that there is no greater place to find educated, kind, interesting, interested young women, okay, for purposes of relationships and so forth. Toronto is probably number one in my experience. Now, my home of New York is good too because of just the sheer numbers of individuals we're talking about here. But here in Toronto, as an American, or maybe even as a European, you come in and you carry some serious weight. Given the political situation right now, maybe not, but before, you come in as an American, like the new guy on campus that all the ladies want to talk to, essentially. I almost got fake married a couple times up here, over and over and over again. For whatever reason, there seems to be a wide disconnect between the young men and the young women here. Dating just seems to be very, very strained. I'm not sure what the exact root is. I'm going to tell you a story of a situation that I wanted, but I was essentially just a jump off for her and I didn't really know it. She was looking for a good time and I met her, I was intrigued, and I wanted to see it further through. On her angle, she was just looking for fun. Okay, now, fast forward, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. This is in northern Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, a spot called Bembe. It's actually still there. It closed down during the pandemic and then they ended up reopening. Now, Bembe is a world music spot. I mean, you go in, you're listening to music from all around the world. You're getting your stuff from South America. You're getting stuff from other parts of Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, maybe even parts of Europe as well. You got live drums and other percussion instruments going. It is a good time. If you don't leave Bembe sweating, then I don't know. You didn't do it right. Oddly enough, I ended up meeting two women that I would end up dating in the future, or maybe not dating isn't the proper word, but having some sort of involvement with thereafterward. Okay, so I met a young lady from Florida, and then I met a young lady from Toronto on the same night. The young lady in Toronto, we struck up a conversation. Okay, now this is a deep woman with deep tan skin, maybe, even darker than mine, the big frizzy hair, like how I like them. Okay, from Egypt. Okay, well, technically she was actually born in Saudi, but her people are from southern Egypt. Essentially, basically Sudanese, all right? So you get this Nubian sister, Egyptian sister, and myself. We're chatting up in this Bembe spot, making a real connection. Her older sister was actually there too. You see it in her face. Her older sister approved the whole setup. Now, the young lady from Florida ended up hitting it off that night with her too. Maybe some things happened. I don't know. Anyway, I actually had a flight scheduled to be in Toronto like within 2 weeks. So fast forward to 2 weeks, I'm in Toronto. And I was actually walking along a major avenue like the day that I was supposed to, or the day before, I was supposed to meet with her sister, and the older sister literally saw me, picked me up in her whip, and drove me back to my hotel. Her older sister was gorgeous too, just putting that out there. But anyway, all right. So ended up meeting up with her the next day. At this point, I'd already kind of like checked out of my hotel, and I had a flight later on, kind of like the last flight of the night. And the plan was to browse around the city with this young lady. So I remember her picking me up in her car, parking like behind a building. It was some sort of office, but it was like an office that was in like maybe a house, okay, a large size house, something of the sort, in a neighborhood that was, I guess, somewhat dodgy, okay? Now, so we park in that little area, and then we stroll out into a festival that was happening that day in the same area. Okay, awesome festival. We're talking, and there's instant chemistry within I don't know, maybe 15 minutes of us walking. We're holding hands, we're kissing, vibes, straight vibes. Now the day was kind of a blur. Okay, the day was kind of a blur. It was just a lot of connection and awesomeness, and then we're getting to the latter stages of the night now, and then we return back to her car with some time to spare, and there was an American chain actually that had just opened up in Toronto, and I wanted her to try it. So I'm thinking, oh well, we're kind of running close for time here, because we have to go to that American chain, knock down the food, or at least order it to go, and then also for me to get to the airport. I'm thinking, wow, we're running tight on time. And her thing was, we were going to sit down in her car, and then some romantic things were going to happen, right? So I get there and I'm thinking, wait, whoa, this is not the way. This is absolutely not the way. This is a young lady that I'm interested in. Okay, let's not push the envelope here. Let's simply wait until I get back to Toronto, which could be whenever I want, as the flight or bus combination. Maybe fly up and then take the bus back. That was my special thing that I like to do sometimes. But sometimes it was flight both ways. It was cheap enough for me to afford, so I could do it as often as I wanted. Now for her, it was she was trying to get all that she can get in that moment. So I kind of put the brakes on a situation that was rapidly advancing. Okay, I'm speaking in terms that won't get me flagged for YouTube, right? So I put the brakes on the situation that was occurring in this vehicle that was in the driveway of this house that nobody was in, that was an office. It was actually an office that her sister worked at, okay? Now this is a weekend, so nobody was at the office, you understand? And it was, it was dark then, so this is nighttime, driveway, just me and her, and she's trying to advance the ball here, and I'm like saying, wait, hold on. But I said wait, hold on, without saying wait, hold on. Okay, I let my actions sort of do the talking. Okay, so we go ahead, we get the food at the spot, I go to the airport, everything feels great on my end, everything is vibes. Then I get back to New York, right? A couple days go by, I get on the phone with her, I spend a lot of time, and then the following week I tell her like, hey, I booked my flight to come back to Toronto. And her response was, you're coming back to Toronto? Why don't you go to somewhere else? Shocked. I was completely shocked when I heard that. For me, it was like, well, wait, I didn't say this out loud, or say this via text message. I was kind of like, whoa, I'm really kind of going to see you, right? I didn't express that though. So I ended up coming back to Toronto, and the vibe was completely different. The vibe was 100% different, okay? I was seeing this thing as for romantic potential, and for her, she was attracted to me, and that's all it was, okay? She needed to marry somebody who was within her culture, okay? That was the way how the situation went. We never had a good conversation about it per se, but things sort of unraveled. Eventually she would get married to a man that was firmly, within her culture, within the same religion and from the same region, and that situation went how it went, okay? God bless her, Mazel Tov. Now, Keenan Lambert got hurt in that situation, but not really, as I also had the thing in Florida going at the same time. So we had multiple avenues open at the same time, and the Florida situation blossomed into something that was somewhat promising. Now again, traditionally speaking, as an American in Canada, there was just an interest level, right? A natural interest with The young lady's sort of looking at the new guy, the brother on the larger side of America. You see, Canada, although it's larger than the United States, it's a lot less developed, okay? You get beyond that southern tier, those 90 miles within the border of the United States, and it's a lot of open land, a lot of open territory, undeveloped, really cold, okay? So the majority of the action within this region is happening in the United States. So Canadians sort of look to the United States as that cousin or that brother that has everything going on. And so, when you're here in Canada, you sort of attract some attention. At least traditionally that was the case. And see, with Canada is very cosmopolitan, open-minded, open to attracting immigrants from all over the world without promoting xenophobia on any level, right? So for that reason, here in Toronto, you have people from all over the world, and they are interacting with each other, marrying with each other, in many cases without prejudice, okay, or with limited levels of prejudice at this point in time. Okay, for previous generations, they might have had it a little bit different, okay. However, but in the modern day, Canada is very open-minded, and you see tons and tons of interracial couples, mixed children, etc. But still, for some reason, here in Canada, here in Toronto, there is a bit of a disconnect between the young men and the young women. Okay, they don't want each other, right? There's a lot of women here that opt for brothers back in the States. They'll even get online, get that app going, that app working, and they're swiping across the border. Not here. For those of you that watch the channel, you guys see me in Cuba, traveling extensively. I end up meeting a lot of Canadian brothers that end up taking Cuban women seriously, and the Cuban migration process is, at this point, maybe a little bit more streamlined than the process and how it looks like for the United States now. Things politically in the United States are a little bit weird, okay? So it's essentially relatively easier for a Cuban woman or Cuban man and a Canadian partner to get together, get married, and for them to then leave Cuba and come to this land. And you see a lot of Canadian brothers going on with that process whenever you travel to Havana. Okay, you see them with their booths, sitting in the cafes, throwing back drinks. Now, I would say this is not true for all cases, but Cuban women are looking for saviors, and in many cases, they don't necessarily love that man who has a growing interest in them. So for that reason, they'll come to Canada, spend maybe the requisite time with the guy, and then run away. Or they simply break out of Cuba, get here, and then they make their way down to Miami, down to Hialeah, and blending into the Cuban American community there. Okay, you see countless examples of this happening, and it's really unfortunate. Because Canada and the United States together have become so unaffordable, people are working more and more. They'll have a full-time job and a part-time job going at the same time. And they just simply have less time to hang out, less time to naturally get in front of potential partners. So for that reason, there are a lot of Canadians that are opting for online dating. Now, it's never necessarily been my thing, okay? But just in opening an app right here, well, I had to download it just to look, the browse. For me, I mean, you're seeing drop-dead gorgeous women on this app. And they're not catfishes, right? You can tell, like, these are real individuals. And in my friend group that I have here in Canada, to see the amount of them that are single, and not single by choice, but just single because they ain't got nothing going on, it's a crazy thing to see. Let me know of your stories from Canada or from other countries, maybe countries in Europe, Mexico, whatever, I don't care. Let me know your stories down below. Let's talk, let's chop it up, let's be controversial. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.